So hi everyone, this is Teresa from Closeted Creatives Coaching, and I am so thrilled that you're part of the Self-Love Summit today. We have a very special guest for our conference this week, and her name is Jessica Serran. She's an international artist and the leader of the Becoming the Artist movement. As a visual artist, she uses drawing and painting to touch the forgotten and hidden parts of self. When not making her own art, she helps other visual artists who struggle with discovering their calling to become leaders of an international creative movement through the power of community. Her ability to see the genius in others and give them permission to step into it, combined with a seamless blend of intuition and logic, are the force that is ushering more authentic, full-bodied creativity into the world. Lit up by marketing as much as art making, her coaching programs are changing the limiting beliefs and starving artist paradigms that hold so many artists back. I love your bio. It's so true, and I've done a couple of your challenges and other things, so I can speak from firsthand experience that that is all true.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So I want to jump right in and just say, tell me about your own journey to self-love and what that experience has been like.
Oh, I was reflecting on this earlier, Teresa, and I was thinking about it. Okay, what are some of the milestones or some of the real moments that would paint a picture? And I was actually remembering being a little girl and crying to my mother about how ugly I was. Oh. Like I just truly believed that I was just like the ugliest kid in the world.
So, I can feel that.
I know I can laugh now, but it's been a journey.
Oh,
yeah. And I think for me, the real conscious part of the journey began when I really started making art. Because for me as an artist, that was the place where all of the stuff that was showing me the places I didn't love myself really started to come up. Yeah, so it was, it's funny. I remember being in art school and used to hear all these other artists talk about how much they loved making art and time seemed to stand still. And it was this magical experience, some kind of escape. And it was so blissful. And I remember thinking, well, maybe I'm not an artist because that's not my experience at all. Because when I started making art, it was like all of the internal voices and the lack of self-love and the inner critic came out so loudly. And it was painful. I mean, I struggled and I suffered through it, but it was almost debilitating.
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to that experience. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So what a great segue into what has been the most challenging thing about this journey to self-love, and how did you move through it? It sounds like art was really a way for you to express some of that deeper, and that's my experience of you for sure. I bought your catalog back in, I think it was December when you launched it, and there was so much emotion. I could just really feel the art, and I'm a very feeling person. So just tell us about your biggest challenge and how you moved through it.
I think really the biggest challenge was the inner critic. And, what really helped me was the moment when it sounds a little bit crazy, but I had to really decide that I was no longer going to run away from it. And I remember this moment so distinctly. I was in grad school and I was painting away in my studio and I was just struggling and suffering. And so what I did is I had found a big cardboard wardrobe box. And I decided, like, you know what, damn it, once and for all, like me and the inner critic, we're going head to head, or something has to change here. And so I stopped making art and I had basically built I cut a door in the side of this big box.
Okay.
And I decided whenever the inner critic started screaming, I was going to climb inside the box and just be with it. And so I brought a marker inside, and whenever I was hearing the voices, I actually, what really started to change things for me was I actually started listening to them and giving them some intention instead of just wanting them to go away. And so once I started to actually, because sometimes you can ask people, well, what is the inner critic saying? Or what are these things you're telling yourself? It can actually be really hard to identify them.
Yeah.
So I actually had to go through this painful process of bringing them out of the unconscious into my awareness. And when I was inside the box, I would start scribbling or writing the things that I was hearing inside my head on the walls of this box. And I would stay there until I felt, I mean, I was so triggered in that, you know, when I went inside the box. So until I felt like I'm a little bit calmer, I'm okay. It was almost like I was performing some sort of exorcism.
Wow. In a box.
In a box in a dark studio. And then, you know, from there, what I did was when I was outside of the box and when this would happen, when I was painting, I actually just started documenting all of these voices in my sketchbook. And slowly but surely, I started coming into relationship with them instead of being so afraid of them or resistant or pushing them away. And eventually, when I really started to listen, I thought, you know, I can't be the only one who experiences these things. And so I decided that instead of just keeping them hidden in a journal or a sketchbook, I would actually write them directly onto the canvas. And I would really give them a voice and a presence and some space in what I was doing. And something in that, well, I mean, really a couple of things happened. The first was that it became less painful, right? Suddenly I was using them. I was saying, okay, you guys can come to the party too. Like, we're all here together. But then the other amazing thing that happened was other people really started connecting with this work because, of course, they had similar experiences. So suddenly it was like, oh my God, all of this pain that I've experienced, it's not for nothing. And also I started to recognize, wow, this art actually feels really authentic. This feels like me on the canvas now.
Wow.
And so that also really started to affect my experience of loving myself, because before that I didn't really have an authentic picture of myself. It was all distorted. So something really started to change from that as well.
Wow, that is so powerful. I'm just sitting with all of the wisdom you just shared. And all of us have an inner critic. There's so many lovely names. Ejani, who we both know, calls it the inner jerk face, which is one of my favorite phrases about it. And I myself have been paralyzed by it. So I loved your story. I'm just really moved by how you sat with it in this box, gave it a voice, and just kept going deeper into the darkness with it. And I can only imagine, I feel like I've done parts of that, but how transformative that was and how much courage it took to really sit with that and really just go there and allow it to sort of, the words that come to me are, have its way with you until you could be in relationship, as awkward and uncomfortable as it was. So I'm just really, it's powerful. I can really feel that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it was in this interesting moment where in a way I had no choice because I was so drawn to art making.
Yeah.
And it was so painful. It was like something had to change. You know, and it's interesting. It probably was almost 10 years later when I met somebody who was a true purpose coach. And in this particular system, they actually talk a lot about these different parts of ourselves. And they have conscious dialogues with all of these different internal parts, which I was essentially doing an iteration of that.
Right.
But the whole basis is, you know, they're all a part of us. And the more that we repress them and just leave them hanging out in the shadows, the more that they'll wreak havoc. But when we can invite them in and say like, oh, hey, you're part of my experience. And I bet if I invite you in a nice way, we can have an interesting conversation. And I can help you heal and you can help me heal.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. So thank you for sharing that, because that is something no one else has shared in that way. And I think it's just super powerful. So thank you.
You're so welcome.
So you do a lot of work with others. So I want to hear about your experience in your work with clients, which you are obviously helping artists of all different kinds. How does the experience of self-love or the lack of it really play out in their lives? And how do you help them with that?
Well, I think the thing that most artists who come to me are struggling with are both that they want to be more creative and give themselves more time, and that they really want to find their authentic voice. And usually embedded in both of those things is they're not giving themselves permission. both to take that time for themselves and also to really listen to themselves. And so I think that, the self-love really comes when we start dropping all of the resistance and the judgment to what we're actually feeling and experiencing, and really start giving ourselves permission to voice those things, to acknowledge the desires. And, it's kind of amazing, actually. It was funny, just this week, one of my clients she said this great thing. In our private Facebook group, she said, I don't actually like art that much. I'm so afraid to say this. I'm going to admit this and say it out loud. Can we have a conversation? But I don't actually like art that much, but I feel drawn to making art.
Mm.
And the moment she voiced that, something shifted for her. And actually within hours, she was making art like she hasn't ever before.
Wow.
And so it was this perfect example of like, we censor ourselves and we just like deny all these different aspects of our experience. And I really feel like the self-love is just willing to say, you know what, this is part of me too. And I'm going to have compassion and respect that and make a space for it.
Right.
And so I think it's primarily, what I do is I try to make space for them to bring all parts of themselves to the table. And then really listen closely for the parts that they're resisting or repressing. And then I just kind of hone in and say, oh, wait, right there, that right there, like you really need to honor that. And that actually gives rise to them making this incredible art that is like unparalleled and deeply, deeply authentic.
Wow. Yeah, I can. So I've done 2 of your challenges, and there are 2 cues. The one that I remember touching me the first time was sort of what I would call, quote, doing it wrong. In other words, doing something that you normally would say, I can't do it that way. And I remember doing it, and it was like the whole time I'm going, oh, this is all wrong. But when it was done, I was like, but this is kind of cool. Like, wow. And I'm not even a trained artist, so I'm a self-taught, so I don't really have any skills. Whatever I make up, that's where it comes from. But also then the second one was sort of, I just did the challenge recently, really about the sort of giving voice to something that, like, what is your heart really trying to say, and really putting that on the paper. And that was really, wow, did that just really bring some deep things that I didn't even know were inside of me to the surface. So FYI, people, please do our challenges. They're amazing. And I'm sure your program's even more amazing. So yeah.
I'm so glad. I think that's it. It's really like, I think loving ourselves is being willing to touch all parts of our experience and without judgment, really. As much as we can do it without judgment, that's where the love comes in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. Sort of the title of the book I read that sort of triggered this whole self-love summit for me is Whatever Arises, Love That. Isn't that the perfect title of a book?
Oh God, I love that. It gave me chills.
I know. It was a great book. So transformative. So thank you. So what's your favorite self-love practice?
Well, the one of late is it's sort of got a couple different parts to it, but whenever I'm really feeling something, the first thing to do to really love myself is to see if I can just drop all resistance to feeling that. Right. So any inner conflict only really comes, or suffering comes, when I'm in resistance to something. So literally it looks like stopping everything when I notice that I'm feeling something or something's kind of wonky or off. I go lay on my bed and I feel my heart, and I just try to like drop all resistance and drop into it. And then the other really powerful thing that I try to do then too is I always say it wrong, but I think it's the Ho'oponopono prayer.
Yes.
Just like not going into stories about what I'm feeling or justifications, but just feeling my heart and saying, oh my God, I'm so sorry that I've been ignoring you or not listening. Please forgive me. I love you. Thank you. And I'll just repeat that to myself over and over and over again. And I love that one.
I was going to say, it's such a thorough and short and simple practice, isn't it? I mean, it kind of touches on everything in 4 short phrases.
It cuts to the chase, doesn't it?
It does. So thank you for bringing that one up. That is beautiful. So
Mm-hmm.
is there a message you would like to share with this audience today?
Well, I think it's what's really embedded in all of this. If anything, it's just listen to yourself. Just be really, really curious about your experience and see if you can just drop judgment long enough to just honor it. Like love, like you said, love whatever is arising. Just really, I think the more that we can just be with ourselves and be with it with a sense of curiosity, it starts to foster that sense of self-love. It's like I'm building the muscle of loving myself over and over and over again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
So is there anything related to your business or your latest art creations that you would like to share with this audience? Her catalog was so fabulous. I don't know if you have any left, but I read it from time to time. It's like a delicious dessert that you just got to have more than once. So anyway.
Oh, thank you. Well, yeah, so there are some printed copies, and I also have a free digital download that people can access. That's on my website if you go to the gallery page. So yeah, what Teresa's talking about is I created a catalog called Objects of My Affection, which is me like really transparently telling the story of my relationship and navigating love, and really, I don't know, really being willing to be with all of my experience and making it really visible. So yeah, that's
Palpable. The heart of it was palpable. I mean, just I read the words, of course, but just even looking at the pieces, you could feel so much. So
oh, thank you. That means so much to me.
beautiful creations. Thank you. So how can people reach you?
Yeah, my website, so jessicaserran.com.
Okay, excellent. And there will be a link to your website and your free gifts so people will have easy access, but I just like them to hear it out loud in case they can't wait. So,
Beautiful. Thank you, Teresa.
and is there any final parting words you have for us, or are you feeling complete?
Just thank you for doing this. It was actually really beautiful for me to even just think about these questions more thoroughly and really explore this topic. It's so important. So thanks for doing this.
Oh, thank you. And thanks for being a guest. I'm so honored that you're part of this. I feel like we're so fortunate to have so many different wisdom people of different backgrounds and expertise showing up for this summit. I mean, it was really, I had the idea on a massage table on Thursday, and by Friday afternoon, I had 5 people saying yes, and now I have 9 interviews. So it's just so exciting how quickly it all came together. So it's meant to be, and I'm so honored that you chose to be part of it. So thank you.
You're welcome. I can't wait to hear the rest.
All right. Well, have a great one, Jessica.
Thanks. You too, Teresa.
Okay, bye.